Pastor Matt Harmless here, and we are reading The Mortification of Sin by John Owen. We are in chapter 12, dealing with the 8th direction in our mortification of sin, which is consider the majesty of God and how little you know of him. He had 2 points underneath this. The first one was think about the greatness of God and who you are by comparison. The second one was think about how unfamiliar you are with him, and then he's been exploring this point through the rest of this chapter. We went through and dug down through some of these ideas here. There was 3 underneath of that. And then he went down deeper into those ideas underneath of those things. But now we're at the conclusion of this point. And it looks like he's going to start here with a kind of an objection, I think, from a listener. So we're going to start with that part, and this will finish off chapter 12. Okay. You may say all this is true, but only for those who do not know God as he is revealed in Jesus Christ. For those who do, it is otherwise. He says that is true. So no man has ever seen God but the only begotten Son. He has revealed him. The Son of God has come and has given us an understanding that we may know him that is true. Another quote, the illumination of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, shines upon believers. And another one, God who commanded the light to shine out of darkness shines into our hearts to give them the knowledge of his glory in the face of his Son. And another one, so that though we were darkness, yet we are now light in the Lord. And another one, and the apostle says, we all with open face behold the glory of the Lord. And then again, we are now so far from being in such darkness or at such a distance from God that, quote, our communion and fellowship is with the Father and with his Son. Now, you don't usually have people answer an objection by adding more evidence to the objection, but that is exactly what he does here, right? So then he goes on. You say the light of the gospel through which God is now revealed is glorious. It is not a star, but the sun in its beauty is risen upon us, and the veil is taken from our faces. Although unbelievers and perhaps some weak believers may still be in some darkness, those who have grown or realized any substantial progress in their walk do have a clear view of the face of God in Jesus Christ. So that's the objection. And he adds to that by quoting a lot of scriptures. And then he goes, and this will finish off this chapter, to which I answer. Okay, so his answer. And this is actually number 3 from the previous point. No matter how much more we know through Jesus Christ, we still know very little. So this is really the key emphasis. As much as we know that God has revealed of him, there's still infinitely more to know. Does that make sense? As much as we know of what God has revealed, there's infinitely more to know of him. So no matter how much more we know through Jesus Christ, we still know very little. The truth is, we all know enough about him to love him more than we do. We know enough to delight in him, serve him, believe him, obey him, and put our trust in him beyond all that we have accomplished so far. Our darkness and weakness is no excuse for our negligence and disobedience. Who can say he has lived up to the knowledge that he has of the perfection, excellence, and will of God? God's purpose in giving us any knowledge of himself here is that we may glorify him as God. That is, we are to love him, serve him, believe and obey him, and give him all the honor and glory that is due from sinful creatures to a sin-pardoning God. We must all acknowledge that we are not thoroughly transformed into the image of that knowledge which we have received. Had we used our talents well, we might have been trusted with more. Number 2, and his response, comparatively speaking, the knowledge which we have of God by the revelation of Jesus Christ in the gospel is outstanding and glorious. It is better than any knowledge of God that might otherwise be attained or that was delivered in the law under the Old Testament. That revelation was only the shadow of good things, not the express image of them. The apostle pursues this at length in 2 Corinthians 3. Christ has now revealed the Father from his own heart in these last days. He has declared his name and made known his mind, will, and counsel in a far clearer, exalted, and distinct manner than he did under the law. Number 3. The difference in knowledge between believers and unbelievers is not so much in the matter of their knowledge as in the manner of their knowing. Some unbelievers may know more and be able to say more of God, his perfection, and his will than many believers, but they know nothing in the way they should, nothing in the right manner, nothing in a spiritual and saving way, nothing with a holy and heavenly light. The excellence of a believer is not that he has a broad understanding of things, but that what little he does understand, he sees in the saving, soul-transforming light of the Spirit of God. This is what gives us communion with God, not intellectual curiosity. Number 4, Jesus Christ, by his word and spirit, reveals God as a Father, as a covenant God, and as a rewarder to the hearts of all his people. He does this sufficiently in every way to teach us to obey him here, to lead us into his presence, and to enjoy him there for eternity. And yet, number 5, despite all this, we know only a little portion of him. We see only his back. That is because, and then he has a second point underneath that. So this is because the reason why, despite all this, we know only a little portion of him, we see only his back. That's because, number 1, the intent of all gospel revelation is not to unveil God's essential glory so that we can see him as he is. It is merely to declare as much of him as he knows will suffice to make a foundation for our faith, love, and obedience, and for us to come to him. That is, it is to make a foundation for the faith that he expects from us in this life and the kind of services appropriate for creatures in the midst of temptations. But when he calls us to eternal admiration and contemplation without interruption, he will make a new way to discover him. The whole shape of things that now appears before us will depart like a shadow. That's a wonderful thought to contemplate. When he calls us to eternal admiration and contemplation without interruption, he'll make a new way to discover him. Like there's a whole new way we will know God. Second, we are ignorant and hesitant to receive the things that are revealed in the Word because of our infirmity and weakness. God keeps us in continual dependence on him to teach us about and reveal himself out of his Word. God never brings anyone to a complete understanding and discovery of what is in the Word. Although revelation in the gospel is clear and evident, we really know very little of the things that are revealed. Let us review the purpose of considering how little we know of God. An appropriate understanding of the inconceivable greatness of God and the infinite distance we stand from him should fill the soul with a holy and awe-filled fear of him. If it does, the soul will be put in a frame completely unsuited for any lust to thrive or flourish. If we keep the soul continually accustomed to reverential thoughts of God's greatness and omnipresence, then it will be on its guard for any inappropriate behavior. Consider the one with whom you have to deal. Our God is a consuming fire. In your greatest shame in his presence and sight, know that your very nature is too limited to comprehend his essential glory. Well, thank you for listening to this chapter of The Mortification of Sin by John Owen. I have just a couple chapters left and we'll finish up this book, and then maybe I'll hit another book after this one. So if you have any suggestions that are already brewing in your mind that you'd like me to read, it'd have to be a book that's old, in the public domain, not under copyright, that I could read in this fashion. But if there is a book that you'd like me to read through with you, just let me know, and I'd be more than happy to do that. All right, thank you for listening. Consider subscribing, and if you like what you're hearing, you could also consider supporting this podcast. All right, thank you.